Welcome to the Farmizen show, where we uncover the delicious interplay between food, farming, and wellness, shaping a brighter, healthier tomorrow. Better for farmers, better for the planet, better for you. Let's dig in. Imagine leaving a high-paying IT job to save the seeds that hold our agricultural heritage. Sounds crazy, right? Well, that's exactly what our guest did. So joining us today is Soumya, the founder of Hooga Seedkeepers Collective. She's on a mission to preserve native seeds and promote sustainable farming. In this episode, we'll uncover the hidden truths about GMOs, the real difference between hybrid and native seeds, and why we should really care about native seeds, and why seed diversity is very crucial to our future. Plus, we'll also ask for some practical tips on how you can save seeds, whether you're an organic farmer or a balcony gardener, right? So if you care about what you eat and how it's grown, you don't want to miss this episode. So let's dig in. Welcome, Soumya.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that I'm here today.
Yeah. So let's just get started with like your journey. It's a very interesting journey. So if you can quickly tell us about your journey, how this whole shift from working in tech to seeds.
It's a very long journey that I'll have to share, but to put it very briefly, I'm from a very small farming family background. My ancestors, my parents, everyone had a farming background, and our primary livelihood was dependent on agriculture. But then, when I said that I wanted to do farming, my parents and my family was not okay. And I think that's the scenario with youngsters and in agriculture, where the parents who had their primary livelihood from agriculture doesn't want their kids to pursue their career in farming. And that's how it was for me as well. And it was a huge conflict of what my career would revolve on. And finally, I landed up in a typical IT job, which I was not interested in at all. I got placed in TCS and I was there for a couple of years. I was not interested. It was like so monotonous, the 9 to 5 p.m. job, and I was so fed up. And I really I did not feel that I am one who can live this urban city life. I was never feeling myself over there. So this everyday thing of just sitting in front of the computer the whole day was so putting me in a very depressed state of mind. So one fine day I decided I'll have to do something about this. If I'm working full time, then it's going to be something that I really love to do. Yeah, and it's showing at the top as well that the internet connection is not stable. So is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine because it's anyway going to record offline as well. So the connection speed is not going to matter. It's just that it'll be a little jittery in terms of like you might waiting for my response and you'll see a lag, right? That's the only thing that will happen, but it'll not come up in the final show as long as we are patient. Yeah. So did you complete your journey part of it?
So then during that time, I started volunteering during the weekends, doing something that I wanted to do, volunteering in a farm, taking care of elderly people, working with orphan kids. So I was just volunteering with grassroots level organizations to see where I'm getting. And I found that my community work inclination was much stronger. And I thought, why not take up this as a full-time career? And to do this, I don't want to be into an average thing, because I see that social workers get paid very low for the kind of work that we do, and it's a very underestimated professional space, especially for social workers. And I wanted to do in some reputed institution, and I got into Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Bombay, and I did my master's in social work. This just changed my life, changed my perspectives in many ways. This got me inclined more socially, but I got opportunities to work with very grassroots level communities across India, Maharashtra, and different places. Interest I got all the awards for that year, so it kind of made me realize my passion for social work and my inclination for community work. So then I decided I'll pursue my career as a professional social worker. But then there were too many things that I would do. Like there were like this elderly care sector, there was farming sector, and I got exposed to too many opportunities and which I wanted to work on. But then again, like farming was so innate in me since I've grown up in a farm, so I really wanted to go back there. So then I chose agriculture as a sector
Okay.
of work. So I started working farmers' livelihood promotion and climate change based research projects. I don't want to come back to Tamil Nadu. So I went up north. I was working in Uttarakhand in a grassroots organization again, like on climate change. And that's when the whole journey of seeds actually started. So it was a very small grassroots organ. And they've been working there for almost like 40, 50 years. And it was a very huge exposure for me at that stage because I
Mhm.
never grew up knowing that there are places in India where you don't have access to places, where vehicles cannot go. You'll have to walk like 10 kilometers every day, and 4 to 5 just to fetch water. So all of these accessibility issues. So that's when this Himalayan journey of mine really changed a lot in me, my ethical goals and moral values of life as a person.
And
And
like you feel that all your life you have grown up in a different world, and this is kind of like a completely different world which exists
yeah,
outside
it
your
is.
own world, right? That's, I think, one of the realization that usually comes through when you go to all of these really remote places, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
remember
that's
there was, so we worked with some apple farmers in Uttarakhand,
Mhm.
right, in Tons Valley. I remember once this farmer kind of calls me and says, "Hey, you know what? The shipment that we were supposed to send you, we won't be able to send that." So I asked why, what happened? So he was like, we transport it using mules and donkeys, right? These crates of apples, because these orchards are
right.
so remote. So there's no
So,
vehicle which goes there. And the
Mhm.
donkey, he actually fell in the gorge. Basically, his leg slipped and he actually fell along with all of the crates of apples, right? And he
Oh,
passed away. And I was like, okay. I mean, I couldn't visualize the entire thing, because I was like, hey, what happened? I mean, did this thing break down? What happened? Did the train did not leave on time? Why are we not getting our consignment? I was like, okay. So I think suddenly you like step back and feel, okay, there is a lot more to the world than our city stuff, right? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, oh yeah, that's a very different story that I would like to share if there is time and opportunity, because it's a whole new world that you get into. The water is so pure. You could hear the sound of the wind, and it's like, and you get to see a lot of varieties of food that you don't get to eat or consume anywhere else. I know the millets that I
Mm.
get. I was able to see a change in my body with the kind of food that I was taking. It really, you could actually feel that
So
change
many
in
varieties of
yourself.
rajma itself, right? So many varieties of
Yes, yes.
rajma and other
Yeah, actually, yeah,
things as well.
that's when
And
this,
they will cook
yeah,
it very simply, but it'll taste so good, right?
true, true. Yeah, and I mean, like when I was working in the villages over there, all of a sudden one day we were going to a village and I saw this grandma sitting and counting these rajma, like almost 48 plus varieties of rajma in one place. So colorful, and the diversity you see is so huge. And there, that day really changed all of that I wanted to do in my life. And so many questions overnight of why we're not seeing all of these varieties in the market anymore. What happened to all of this foods that is forgotten, and how are we going to tackle a future if this is going to be lost or extinct? So all of this kind of really clogged my mind so much. And I also got an opportunity at that time to be a part of the conference that was happening in the US. It was the Seed Growers Conference in Corvallis, US. And this organization, it's in here, Institute of Himalayan Environmental Research and Education, where I was working. So the founders, two of them, they have been working there for almost like 4 to 5 decades, and they gave me this opportunity to be a part of this seed distribution and exchange mechanism with the villagers in the Himalayas. And that's when I started learning all about seeds and the seed bank, importance of community-based seed banks, and why this work is so critical at this time when we so much talk about the global seed politics and seed conservation. Dr. Vandana Shiva was so much talking about the global seed politics and what's happening in the seed sector with almost like world's 4% of seed share with top giants, and how this gap can be bridged by local communities, seed banks, and how we could work for this. So all of these was the
Go ahead.
starting point of my work for seeds.
Understood. Cool. So I think so we have touched upon a bunch of interesting topics already, which let's go a little deeper into it. So what is this thing about seed politics? I mean, can you tell our audience what is this thing about seed politics? We don't know about it. I mean, we go to the market, buy stuff, whatever is there. We do see that there is
Right.
a lessening of diversity of food, right? But what is this seed politics stuff?
Yes, I'll give you a brief of what it is all about. Earlier, seed was never bought in the market. Our farmers never had the practice of buying seeds. We always had it as part of a culture. Seed was so much a cultural thing more than a materialistic thing that was seen as a substance that can be bought from the market. But then gradually, when the Green Revolution started and drought hit India in the 1960s, and there was this high yielding variety seeds that was flooding the market, and a lot of changes that happened during that time in the 1960s to 70s brought policy level changes in India, which was not very conducive for farmers to start saving seeds. And farmers, in that case, they were not just looking for high yielding varieties. So the argument that every university or every agriculture student you come across will say that is, how will you feed this population with all these organic seeds or native seeds? So that's the biggest question in this whole
Right, right.
discourse of seed politics when you say about seed politics. So the thing is, when we talk about high yielding varieties, it is a myth that not all the native varieties are high yielding, but there are specific varieties in traditional varieties itself which is really high yielding, which we are lacking to look
Mhm.
at and which is getting lost as well. So no one is talking about these specific varieties which is actually having that high yielding power. I can challenge anyone who comes and tells me that traditional varieties are not high yielding. So I can show you a variety of small pumpkin that we have, which is local to our region, which get you'll see like 30 to 40 fruits in single plant. I can I can bet that not any other hybrid pumpkin varieties will have this much yield in a single plant. So when all of this happened, the whole discourse with traditional varieties and hybrids goes along this line of the high yielding varieties.
It is not true. It is a myth that high yielding
Yeah.
varieties are only hybrid seed. You are
Yes.
categorically saying that even native seeds, depending on the correct variety that you choose for that particular area, you can get high
Yeah.
yields even from native seeds. That's, I think,
Yeah.
a great takeaway because this is something that we hear often. The second thing that I heard you say was that before the Green Revolutions, farmers never used to buy really seeds from the
Right.
market as such, right? Extensively. The Green Revolution kind of changed that, and we started buying seeds from the market and got dependent, right, on these things. Now it also kind of makes sense, like many other things in the world. Like the other day in this show, in the one of the previous episodes, we were talking to a plant-based nutritionist, and I was asking her about protein powders, why there is suddenly so much of activity around protein powders, and she was saying that you get enough protein from your plants and vegetables itself, but you can't make money selling carrots, right? So you need to make money selling protein powders, and which is why it's being marketed so aggressively. That was one point of view that she was talking about. This is kind of also similar, right? That because from native varieties of seeds, typically, and especially in a situation where these seeds are being shared or bartered or exchanged or people are saving it, nobody can really make money out of it or big profits. So there is no incentive for people to talk about it as well, right? There is no incentive to commission studies and reports saying this gives so much yield. No incentive to put in the budgets required to measure the yield as well. The incentives are only there with companies who are producing these high yield varieties of
Yeah.
seeds. So, but this seed politics bit, is there something that even from a geopolitics angle, is this something that like we should be worried about as a geopolitical entity, as India, that hey, you know what? Because a lot of these companies are also not necessarily, many of them are obviously Indian companies, but a lot of these are big multinational companies, right? And I see some
Yeah.
parallels here in terms of concerns. Like, for example, there is a lot of concern around AI and the fact that many of the fundamental technologies behind AI, we are not owning
Right.
that, right? And these big global companies kind of own that. Is there a concern around that as well, even in the seed politics side of things?
Yeah, of course there is. Today, if you consider the data, you'll find that world's 4% of seed share is just owned by 4 companies. And all of these 4 companies are not actually seed companies. They're all fertilizer companies. So the thing is, right now, if you look at the grassroots level farmers, the first thing that you find is when a farmer goes to buy a seed, they don't buy a seed alone. They buy the fertilizer first. So it comes with like a doctor prescription. When you go to a hospital, what the doctor do is like the patient, you'll have to go with these medicines for that particular issue that you have. It's the same with the farmers as well. They
Right.
go for, they want to grow a crop, automatically there is a designated fertilizer that goes with the seed. So it's like that right now. So all of these huge giant corporate companies that is running for seeds, they're actually fertilizer companies who are selling seeds. So it's like the target is the fertilizer and not the seeds.
Yeah.
But we don't realize the impact of that. Rather, and also it's also about a lot of varieties. To even disclose certain aspects of this, there's a sometimes I've heard from scientists even who have visited our seed bank, who tells us like not to disclose certain varieties that we have identified, which we found nutritionally highly valuable. A lot of information that shouldn't go out as an open source, and it can be used and it can be misused. So we don't know. It's like that.
The other thing is around, you said 4% of the seeds in the world are owned by seed companies. This is in terms of seed varieties or overall seed sales? 4% of the
Overall
seed
seed
varieties
share.
which are there, or 4% of the seed? Okay. 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 And these are owned by 4 top big global companies, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, okay. So, a few things. I think we will talk in detail about all these different, what do we really mean by native seed varieties, what we mean by GMO, and all of these things. But let's talk about what these seed companies say, right? So what I've heard is sometimes these seed companies actually go ahead and sue farmers as well, right? They put a legal case on farmers saying, hey, why have you saved the seeds? Like, we gave you these seeds which were kind of patented by us, and you saved those seeds and you started growing stuff. Is does that happen? Does that happen in India as well?
There are cases where the companies actually take. See, for example, if you consider the case of cotton, GM cotton itself, if you look at it, like 2000, around 2000, so Monsanto had this GM cotton, and they claimed that it's going to be resistant against pink bollworm. And in 2019, Supreme Court gave a ban stating that it's not resistant against the pest that they mentioned, the pink bollworm. But by that time, farmers, almost 99% of all the cotton fields in India have started using GM. So once a seed enters the country, it gets spread so quickly that it creates irreversible damage. So that's the impact of seeds. So you just let a seed come into your country, and there you will have to experience the impact of this. And people don't understand the kind of climate emergency right now we are in, and the usage of all of these seeds and the consequences of this is unrealized. We talk so much about organic farming, we talk so much about natural buildings. There's a huge hype, but we talk so less about seeds and what is happening in this sector. There is a very handful of people who have been protected across the country regarding the entry of the BT brinjal and other GM crops is really unnoticed.
Right. So what's a GMO seed and what's a hybrid seed? We see sometimes consumers get confused about GMO and hybrid, and differentiating them from native seeds. What's a GMO seed? What's a hybrid seed? How are they two different?
So you can, if you categorize, basically the types of seeds will be the native or the traditional or the heirloom seeds, which has been passed from generation after generation, and it is regenerative in nature. Basically, you can save those seeds for yourself, So when you grow those seeds again, they'll be true to their type. So if you see a green beans plant, the same green beans you'll be able to find it, like even if you grow them for 10 long years. So those seeds are regenerative in nature. Whereas when you find like hybrid, they are a cross pollination of two selected varieties, crossbreeding of two selected varieties, and they find a new variety which have the traits of the parent plants. So that is a hybrid, which is like manually selected, manually chosen, and a developed one. Say for example, if we compare it with human, say you have a male parent and a female parent, and both of these are healthy, and you find that the children will also be healthy. So you find that child a new one. So that it is what the hybrid is. The next one is the genetically modified crop, which is in the case of GM cotton, it is the Bacillus thuringiensis bacteria gene that was inserted into a plant, into a vegetable to find a new variety which is resistant against certain pests. Say, for example, right now in the US, they have introduced genetically modified tomatoes, which is purple in color, dark purple in color. So basically, this is like not an animal gene, but this is taken from a flower's gene. It's the snapdragon flower from which the gene is taken and inserted into a tomato. And they say the tomato is very climate resilient in nature, and it's not harmful. And the seed sales have been started in the US. So I personally feel that anything that is against nature, that is done artificially, say for example in the case of GM cotton or GM brindle or whatever you bring into the plate, even if it's going to be the GM tomato, even if the gene is taken from a plant material, still I feel if it's not properly researched, then there will be some kind of consequence. And I would advise all the listeners who are watching the show to read this book called Genetic Rule, Genetic Roulettegee. It's a book by Jeffrey Smith, which talks so much about the consequences of GM and the farmers who have been impacted by the GM farm fields. So you can learn so much about when we talk about the seed politics and what happened with this whole GM sector. You will be able to understand the whole scenario of this very clearly. So there has been days where I was not able to sleep after reading this book. So it's like these are three categories. I feel like if we are not able to save or have regenerative seeds with us right now, then probably our seed sovereignty and freedom is lost. And when the seed freedom is lost, then our life is at stake.
So these native seeds, let's talk. I think we are going to look at it from two perspectives. One is from the consumer's perspective and another from the farmer's perspective. Of course, these things are kind of interrelated. I mean, just a few generations back, all of us were consumers and all of us were farmers. So, and even now it's all kind of very interrelated. So, as a consumer, obviously, there is an argument against GMO seeds because we don't know, there could be unintended consequences of those as well, of that entering our food system. Hybrid seeds versus native seeds, is there a nutritional difference for a consumer, somebody who's eating food grown using hybrid seeds versus native seeds? Any comments on that?
We have evidence at Hooga regarding this. We have tested two varieties of tomatoes and potatoes as well. So we have identified a variety which is a heirloom variety called Togo tomatoes. It's a native variety of Africa basically, but grows very well in India. And we have done nutritional value comparison with the market-based hybrid tomatoes. And we have found that the protein content is higher in the Togo tomatoes. And we've also found other nutritional value much higher and nutritionally delicious and powerfully packed with protein, the native variety compared to the hybrids. And even with the case of a traditional variety of potato that we have identified from Kerala, which has been there for centuries, it's called air potato, which usually potato grows in the soil, but this one grows in the plant itself. So that potato and the normal market-based potato. So we found that usually for potato, they compare the fat and the carbohydrates value, and we found that they're much higher. Definitely, it's like more than 100%. It's assured that native varieties and traditional varieties have higher nutrition compared to the hybrids.
There is also another angle to that, which is that, like, see, obviously there are infinite number of tests that you could do in terms of,
Correct.
okay, let's compare this versus this, and so on and so forth. Obviously, you would be limited by funds, etc., available to do all of those tests. So you have done some sample tests on certain things, and you've seen a clear difference. So you are quite unambiguous about that. That whatever you have tested, you have seen nutritional values come out
Mhm.
much higher in the heirloom varieties. But from a more anecdotal perspective, if you see, most of us would agree that whenever we taste vegetables, desi vegetables as we call them, or things from heirloom varieties, we do find that the tastes are more pungent, or there is a stronger taste, so to speak,
Mm.
right?
Right.
Now, actually, that's one way. See, I mean, when it comes to fruits and vegetables, a lot of times things which are more pungent, or there is more flavor, more stronger flavor, are usually always much more healthier for us in general, as a thumb rule. Of course, there could be
Yeah.
exceptions and stuff, simply because they have more phytochemicals in them, right? That produce has more phytochemicals in them. And I think most of us would agree that when you eat many of this hybrid stuff, a lot of them are very bland. They look good, but their taste might be a little bland compared to many of these nati varieties, which might look smaller or might look very different, not necessarily always smaller. Like elephant
Right.
tusk okra might look really big, for example.
Right.
So they'll not
True.
look conventional in many cases, but they will, most of the times, they will have like a stronger, more pungent, or more flavor and things like that. So I think when it comes to fruits and vegetables, you can actually trust our senses of smell, and what's actually tasting better is probably also better for you.
Very
That's
true.
also, I think, a test that we can do ourselves instead of just
Yes.
relying on lab tests as
Yeah.
well. But from a farmer's perspective, so increasingly we have seen that consumers, of course, there is one issue. One is many consumers are getting aware of this, so they are asking for, hey, can we get stuff grown, desi stuff? But there is also a huge set of consumers who have unfortunately got trained by what's available in the supermarkets, who might not have grown up in villages, or whose big part of their adult life has been spent in cities.
Right.
They have not been exposed to many of this other stuff. So they are used to the very standard looking tomatoes, the very standard bottle gourd, the very standard ridge gourd, and things like that. Often they would come back and say that, okay, I mean, this okra seems overripe. This should have been much smaller. Why are you sending such big okras? Something is wrong with it. Or it's too thick, right? And as we
Yeah.
know, there are various heirloom varieties of okra which will look completely different from what we find in the
True.
market. So I think one challenge is around that, educating consumers, that because many of us have forgotten, unfortunately. The other challenge, the flip side of that, is consumers who are kind of very aware of it, they are never able to find enough supply of those vegetables in different places. Forget
Yes.
supermarkets, obviously, not in supermarkets, but even in places like farmers, we sell a lot of vegetables from different farmers, etc. We keep on telling our farmers that, hey, grow more unique varieties, grow more specialty produce. That way you can command better prices, and it's not going to fluctuate with the market prices. Because let's say if you're growing purple okra, we are not going to come, no, consumer is not going to compare saying, okay, but okra prices today dropped by 30%. Why is your okra still high? Because you're selling a different product altogether. You're selling a black carrot, you are selling a purple okra, you are selling some sort of other sort of beans. So it actually makes sense for you to de-link from the market prices. And as we know, market price is a big problem, which creates problem for farmers. But then the challenge comes that farmers basically say, I think, two things. One is, a lot of farmers are like, but we have seen hybrid seeds work for us. Will the yield be very low? So I think somewhere at their back of their mind, they have this thing that, okay, the yield is going to be very low. That is one challenge. But the other challenge is we don't find enough seeds. Okay, sir, I would love to grow these heirloom vegetables. Where do I find seeds at enough quantities? Because I'm able to, some of these farmers would also go online, right? And they would go on, let's say, Amazon, and they would be like, I'm finding seeds, but they are more for home garden use. I'm not finding it enough quantity. I want to plant, quarter acre, half acre of this particular thing. I'm not finding enough seeds to do that. Why is that the case, and how to solve that? Whole, okay, everything is all education, etc., convincing is taken care of, but now we just need those heirloom seeds in reasonable quantities. how is this going to get access?
This is exactly where Hooga is taking a huge role to play at the grassroots level. That's why we have set up our operational center and seed bank, our complete range of activities in our own village itself. So we have a collective, that's why it's called as Hooga Seedkeepers Collective, where we have signed a contract with Agri University, Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, and Bhavani Sagar Agriculture Research Stations regarding the capacity building of associated farmers. The farmers are so much aware about organic farming certification, how to do what, but there's not much talk about seed certification or how to certify a farm as a certified seed farm. So we help those kind of issues to be addressed with the farmer. Try to sensitize them with the importance of heirloom varieties and choose commercially viable, high yielding varieties of vegetables that can be multiplied and that can be sold in the markets. For example, this small pumpkin, it can be grown year round and highly resilient to climatic situations. And we have chosen different other varieties of elephant fruit yam and tubers and rhizomes, which are really good yielding. And farmers also get a very fair price for this. And we tell them that we build their capacities for seed production. Now, even say, for example, for paddy, we have almost 42 varieties of paddy that we have conserved over the years. And when we train the farmers, if you have seen the difference of how they have been growing the paddy for crop and how they should actually grow the same paddy for seed. So there is a difference between both. A single paddy plant can produce thousands of seeds. So if you even say, for example, in 1 acre of field of paddy, if you're leaving them for seed production, even a single cross pollination or a single plant of another seed comes in, then it's a huge mix of seeds, contaminated seeds. You don't get the pure type at all because one plant could produce more than 100. So all of this will get mixed. So you will have to do this off-type removal, roguing methods, and all of that. So farmers were able to clearly understand in a very simple and basic way of how to do this. So this is where Hooga trains them with how to produce seed from scratch and also helps them with all the legalities of seed keeping in terms of bookkeeping, getting the license with the government of open pollinated varieties, how to do this. So we handhold them at every stage to do this. And some farmers who are already organic certified, we choose them mostly because organic certification in itself takes like 5 to 6 years. So we always choose organic already who is organic certified, or we help the farmers who are really seriously doing it for a long time, and we understand that they're very serious about it, and then help them with the organic certification document. And we also help them with the seed production standards.
Got it. Let's say if you're a smallholder farmer, right, you have like 1-2 acres of land and you're kind of trying to do farming, like growing regular vegetables, etc., versus purely focusing on growing seeds. How do the economics compare? Which is more lucrative? Which is easier to sell? Where are the margins larger? Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, seed is a very highly profitable business. And even if at Hooga, when we actually applied for the seed selling license, the first thing that the officers mentioned is whoever has been running seed companies in the district, in the region, are not educated. So people who come into this business, they are purely for profit oriented and money oriented, and they don't enter into it just because they wanted to actually work on conservation aspects, or they wanted to bring in new varieties, or interested in breeding even. So that way I feel like, and Hooga as well, it's been a very profitable journey for us in the years that we have worked with our farmers here. And our farmers have really found it very fruitful. And say, for example, we grow turmeric, like we supply to one of the top brands in India, and we find that the turmeric price was like 80 rupees, 100 rupees, like that this year. And we have given a very fair price to the farmer. So we don't bargain with the farmers at all. So whatever fair price they charge us, regardless of questioning them, we pay them a premium price. And sometimes you also help them mitigate crop loss and other infestations that happen. So overall, it's like it's a very compared to the vegetable growing part, seed growing is definitely a very profitable one. You find like at least
Got it.
150
Just that it might require a little more, it might require more attention, more
more
work, more,
attention.
more care essentially.
Yeah, process is a bit longer. Process is very
Okay.
challenging in terms of field level production, and getting the seeds certified is a very challenging process with the government because they come for like
I see.
multiple inspections to the field. You have multiple audits.
Okay.
So seed production fields have a different criteria and consideration altogether compared to vegetable growing.
This certification from an organic certification standpoint or some other certification?
No, it is a government. Government has this seed certified seed farm certification. For seeds, it's a different thing.
Okay.
Organic certification is different, and seed certification is different. You have this district level
Got
seed
it.
certification agency, which helps you in the seed all things related to seed. Whereas the organic farming department is separate, and they
Okay.
help you with the organic certification.
And this seed certification is something which is a state level subject with different states having different rules and processes, or it's the same across India?
Yes, it is. So Tamil Nadu, we operate from Tamil Nadu, and it's a very difficult and challenging process in Tamil Nadu because they only help with all notified varieties. So if we come up with a new traditional variety and getting it certified is not possible at all. So that has been a question for me for a long
Got it.
time, and yeah, still struggling to get this onto the table.
So okay, I mean, in my mind somewhere I'm getting a little uncomfortable about this because I mean these are typically things which are often put in place knowingly or unknowingly to hold back innovation as well. Unfortunately, like for example, before Green Revolution, etc., was this still a process then? Was it still such a cumbersome process? I mean, I am getting this suspicion as to whether this whole process is made difficult knowingly.
Maybe or maybe not, because it's a very highly controversial thing in India.
I know you can't comment on it. I know you can't comment on it now. You have to work with all of these organizations, etc. So you can't really comment on it. But I mean, at least in my mind, there is a doubt. Okay, cool. But so the seeds that you grow primarily, how do people? So people buy it from you directly, or as well as from other places. All these seeds that are produced by members of your collective, finally you sell them. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that is how it works because we have made the company work in a very different business model because we don't want the company's values and vision and mission to be diluted at any point in time. So having multiple stakeholders, I always feel that sometimes we get so lost. Either it is too much profit oriented, or it's either a loss for the farmers. Even if we consider the farmer producer company thing, I see like very handful of FPCs running successfully with all the farmers being very cooperative with everything that's happening with the company.
Right.
Whereas we don't want to do it that way, but we have a very fair share of contract with our farmers, and it's been very encouraging for them also.
Profit, private, limited sort of a company.
Yeah, it's a private limited company, and we have
Got
our
it.
own
Got it.
specific customized contract with each small farmer with whom we are working according to their needs and criteria that we work on.
And you sell these seeds to companies who are doing, for example, contract farming, etc. You also sell these to farmers. Do you also sell them to retail consumers as well?
Yes, our major market segment is the retail customers, whereas our farmers are very less in number. Right now, farmers who are very much sensitized and who are doing organic farming, they wanted bulk quantities of seed. Whereas there is still a very major share of farmers who doesn't want to shift to organic practices, who still very, very confidently believe that hybrid is the future. So when that is where we try to bring the change.
Any different varieties of seeds do you have which are in people can get in bulk quantities?
We have almost 100 plus varieties which can be bought in bulk from us. Yeah, including the tubers and rhizomes.
Okay, cool. Now, the other thing is in terms of, do you have plans to take Hooga to other parts of the country? Because I would assume that a lot of these native seeds will be very region specific, right? Native seeds which you have kind of saved and grown and propagated in Tamil Nadu, maybe most suitable for some parts of South India. But in a different agroclimatic zone, we probably need to save and create seed supplies of native seeds from that area, right? And some of these might not work there as well, right? So,
Yeah.
are you planning to take
Yeah,
Hooga
right.
to other places or? Yeah.
Oh, no, our operational base is in Tamil Nadu because we have completely grown up right now here and we have got a good base over here. So it's kind of easier for us to progress and sustain it. We do have plans to expand, and right now we have our farmer network is already in 3 states of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Karnataka, and we have farmers in Haryana and Uttarakhand as well. So it's like a farmer network is big, but since the crop is specific to specific regions, we cannot produce everything in one place. Especially the winter crops, it's not possible at all. For specific varieties, we do is carrots and stuff, but for cabbage, cauliflower, etc., we cannot do it. So it's like we'll have to go for winter region.
And if I have to ask you, what is the one single biggest thing which is, the biggest hurdle for you to scale? What would that be?
Sensitizing and bringing in farmers to this because the first thing for a farmer whose livelihood is primarily dependent on this is the money that is involved. So immediately going and changing them because for the past 50, 60 years, they have been so addicted to growing all that hybrids. And now all of a sudden you go with a new crop and say this, like this is what it is. So it becomes very difficult to.
So when you say farmer side, are you talking more from the supply side or the demand side? In the sense, farmers who are ready to grow these seeds for you,
Farmers,
or are you talking about farmers who are ready to adopt these seeds and grow for the market?
yeah, farmers who are ready to adopt these seeds and grow for the market. Unless and until there is a specific consumer awareness regarding the specific vegetable. Say, for example, the Star of David okra. It's a very good okra variety, very high yielding. It has a good weight also, even if you weigh per kg, it'll accommodate less number of fruits. But if you use like 5 to 6 okras, it's enough to consume for the family. And just because it is fat, it looks round, it doesn't mean that it is very crunchy or it doesn't boil well. It's not that way. It's very delicious and very soft and tender when cooked. But people look at the appearance of the vegetable and they just deny the fact, like as you mentioned already about, they have set a standard in their mind of how each vegetable looks, is not aware about it.
So one of the things that sometimes farmers come and tell us is that, see, many of these hybrid seeds, they have been created by keeping an optimum shelf life in mind. Optimum shelf life, optimum size, all these sort of things in mind. So how does that work out for these native vegetables or different native sort of crops? From a shelf life perspective, is there an issue? There is less standardization of size. It's definitely slightly different from what we usually expect and see in the market. You can have smaller, bigger, more irregular produce. But from a shelf life perspective, do you see any difference?
Yeah, the nutritional value analysis part which I mentioned for the Togo tomato, it goes very well with the same thing that you're talking about, the shelf life as well. Togo tomatoes, you can keep it for like 15 to 20 days without refrigeration. Whereas a normal hybrid tomato, you cannot keep it that way.
Wow.
So this has to be very variety specific. You cannot just generalize the whole thing as hybrids, native or traditional or heirloom GMO. It has to be very narrowed down and looked at as varieties, which has been. That is how hybrids are. Is it like they do selective breeding? So that is where you will have to look at native varieties as well. So there are hundreds of varieties of okra. So how can anyone believe that not even a single variety is yielding or not even a single variety will have good taste? This is like absolutely
right. It's almost like saying that in our labs we are much more smarter than Mother Nature, right? It's basically saying that, right? Yeah. Let's talk about another angle, which is the climate angle. So I think, given the fact that there is so much of climate change which has become real now, right? In the last 10 years or so, things which we used to learn in textbooks and we used to feel, okay, this is too far removed. Maybe our next generation will get impacted. Maybe some scientists are just creating fear amongst us. All of these thoughts were there, but now I think everybody in the world is seeing it firsthand, real life. That was every time. In Bangalore we had 41, 42 degrees centigrade temperatures this time. And because we work with a lot of farmers, we keep on seeing how, untimely rain. One One season got wasted because there was no rain. Next season got wasted because there was too much of rain. Next season got wasted because there was untimely rain. And next season got wasted because there was, instead of rain, there was hailstorms. Right? All of this very strange stuff is happening across India, across several farms. So now, what is the role that seed variety or native varieties play in terms of the climate change angle? Are they more resilient to dealing with climate, native varieties? Is there an angle like that as well?
Yes, there are specific varieties which we have seen as very climate resilient in terms of like we have a very small research trial plot. Any variety that we identify in the first stage, we actually test them for this climate resilient capacity of the vegetable. So what we do is like we grow a certain patches for each experiment. One is like we don't give it water at all. We don't give any kind of natural fertilizer. We give more water for certain plants. We give rain hoses for rainfall kind of a setup. So we do all of this to check like how each of these plants are growing in terms of their conditions. So that way we have found out that certain varieties, they're very drought resilient in nature. Say for example, if you consider brinjal, any brinjal which has thorn brinjal, which has thorns in them, they're all drought resistant. So you get all of these in any rain-fed region. So that way, any kind of thorn brinjal you find, you can grow it in dry region. So we have, over these years, we have so many varieties identified with specific traits which has specific resilient ability, which we have documented.
Correct. Few other questions. So one is that like when farmers buy seeds from you, do you expect them to come back to you and buy the same seeds again, or do you tell them, no, now that you've bought stuff from me once, now you just make sure you save enough for the next season? I should not see you again for this variety. What's your take?
The thing is, while selling certain seeds, we have a small card in which we clearly mention how to save that seed. So that way, when a customer buys the seed from us, when a farmer buys the seed from us, we clearly mentioned about everything in a piece of paper, so they don't have to come back to us. But the problem is, and I purposefully made the payment gateway down in our website at Hooga because I wanted to have a very personal touch with all of our customers. Sometimes it's the home gardeners, sometimes it's the farmers. They have lots of queries in terms of season, how this plant will grow, what's the fruit size, how do I grow it, will it need more water, less water, what is the watering frequency? So many questions. So I wanted to really spend time for that to answer all of the questions because we also take responsibility for what we are giving them. So that way, this bonding is always there. And despite me spending so much time and putting a website down, there's been a lot of people trying to help us also with the website. And still, I don't want to do it on a purposeful thing. When they, despite doing all of this, still farmers and consumers, there's a very minimal percent who take effort for seed saving and do this as an act. And that is also
because always it's like, okay, I'm just going to pay some money and get it again, right? That's the usual human take. Okay, instead of spending effort, let me spend money wherever I can afford it, right?
And some consumers I've seen that they have started their own small, they'll have a very small covered space in their home, and they would have started saving seeds slowly every single time when they buy seeds. And I've seen like they have tiny boxes with good label notes about seeds, and they've kept it. So it gives a greater sense of satisfaction with the kind of work that we're doing.
I mean, it's just like how we continue to buy compost from Amazon, even though you can probably produce enough compost at your home. It's the same thing, you know. Wherever we can spend some money and do it. But at least I think, see, basically, as long as you get a small percentage of customers starting to do it, I think that itself will be enough, because that's the beauty about seeds. I mean, you need just a few plants for an entire species to have the ability to go to hundreds of acres. That's the amazing, like, I don't know what to call it, the multiplicative power of seeds, I think.
And there's balcony gardeners, terrace gardeners, the ones who could actually do this very, very easily at home.
Can you give us some tips as a if you're a home gardener, right? You've got some native seeds from somewhere. Let's say you've grown these tomatoes. how should they, like, some very basic tips on how they can save these seeds, and then how they should also, probably a part of the saving is also sharing it with the rest of the community,
True,
etc. So if
true.
you have some tips on how to do this process and how to then share, that would be
Yeah.
good.
So, to put in a very basic way of how to save seeds, there are different types of plants and different types of isolation mechanism for each of the plants. So, in that way, I'll categorize it into three types. The first type would be plants that have the male and the female parts in the same flower. Say, for example, the okra, tomatoes, brinjal, beans. All of this have the male and the female parts in the same flower. So, which means that they are self-pollinating. So, all that they have to do is once they see the flowers coming out and they wanted to save the seeds of a specific variety, then usually, for example, if it's okra, then the flower actually starts blooming in a cylindrical shape in the morning. That's it. So once they start seeing that, they can tie or use a small thread to tie the flower, so they can close the flower. And the bees will not cross pollinate with any other variety. So usually the pollination happens through bees and other insects. So you need to stop them. So that's what happens with okra, brinjal, and tomatoes. So for okra, it is okay. So once you close the flower so they don't cross pollinate, so they set the fruit, and during the harvest, they'll have to let the fruit dry in the plant itself. So once you see the dried ladies finger, it's called hairline crack. Once you start seeing that, you can harvest and dry it in early morning sunlight or evening sunlight and store them. So storage is a separate procedure altogether. So all of this has a deeper detail of how to do seed saving for each of the plants and varieties. And the type 2 would be the male and the female will be in the same plant but separate flowers. So you will have to hand pollinate
Okay.
the flowers and isolate them or close them with a cloth pod or a cover, and then save them for seeds. Say for example, the most of the cucurbits are like this. And then we have like papaya, where you have the male and the female separately as plants itself. So the male and female, you can once they start to grow to like 4 feet height, then you can either do it manually over like a longer period and do selective breeding of those native plants, or you can choose the female plant and save the seeds from that. So there are different ways of doing it for each thing.
Sure.
For tomato, you can do fermentation of those seeds. Brinjal also. Like you can scoop out the tomatoes with the pulp and then store it in a container, keep it for a day or two. And once you see a fungal formation at the top of the pulp, that's when you can rinse it with water and spread it on a cloth or a plate and dry it in sunlight, shade dry, and then put it in sunlight for a few hours and mix it with wood ash or neem leaves. And there are also other plant material which we can use to store the seeds without any pest. And especially the traditional way is millet. So when you store the seeds inside the foxtail millet, then the pest infestation is much, much lower. And some seeds, when they are left in the pod itself,
Okay.
the infestation is not there at all. Say, for example, even an okra, rich gourd, gourds, when you keep it inside the pod itself, the infestation doesn't happen and the viability of the seed is maintained. So it's a very huge space to talk about. If you take each vegetable, I can say like thousands of thousands of methods of how you could do. There are instant germination tests.
Is this all documented somewhere? I mean, I would assume that this would be available on the internet, documented, or is it something, one of those things which are not documented well enough?
No, it's not. I mean, it's already there, but our journey has been very, very different. So we have our own documentation that has been done, and right now we are developing it as a curriculum itself. So anyone who wants to learn all about seeds and seed keeping and to do start their own community seed bank in their own place, so they can use these courses to learn about it. And we're also planning for a residential seed keeping program, which we will release soon because a lot of work has to be done like for A to Z seed keeping activity, which we are also progressing towards. So our basic course
And
will
this
be
is going to be held in your village?
yeah,
This is
in
going
our
to be
place.
held in your farm, in your village?
Yeah,
Or?
yeah, yeah. And we wanted to bring it like a very participatory pedagogy where farmers also become the scientists. So our scientists are our farmers. That is what is our key.
Got it. And how long is that course going to be, the residential one?
We are still putting all the things together. So it to release all those details.
Yeah. Cool. So I think this is awesome stuff. But now in terms of, you mentioned something called community seed banks. What do you mean by a community seed bank?
So basically, we go to different villages in remote areas because that is where we see human interruption is very less, and people are still following all those traditional practices that are it to go to the market. So these farmers, they still have the practice of saving seeds with them, and some of these seeds are consumed for food as well, and some is kept for seed purpose. So naturally, it is so much in them, but they don't have a common space in the community where all of them can access these seeds when it is necessary for them. So it becomes so much sustainable when it comes to a village level seed bank. This was there earlier during our ancestral times, and they had very interesting ways of germination check. If you see temple rituals that happen in villages, they usually carry these small pots which has these small grasses grown in them, like microgreens, and they all of these villagers, they carry it to the temple and they keep it arranged in a place, and they'll worship the god for the rains and for the upcoming season. Usually this happens during Pongal in Tamil Nadu. And that's when the village festival also happened. All of these dates also coincide, even with the sun motions and the planetary motions. If we look at it in a very scientific way of looking at plant growth and everything. So, so when they keep all these grown pods of these microgreens in the temple, they find which one is very healthy and choose that farmer's seed for exchanging with other farmers for growing it in the village.
Oh,
yeah. So this has been a practice. So everything that was done had a meaning to it, had a purpose. Right now, it is all.
So these village level seed banks, I mean, in the earlier days, who would be maintaining that? Was it like one or two designated elders who would kind of be maintaining that, or very voluntary sort of a thing? Or as a community used to say, okay, you two guys, you are going to take care of the seed bank for the village. How did it happen?
No, it was very participatory in a way, I would say. They'll have turns, whoever is taking care of it. They had a very cooperative way of taking care of seed banks. It was not that it is your responsibility or my responsibility. It was so much of an oneness when it comes to seeds, which is missing right now. Now all this seed banks, community-based seed banks as well, has gotten so much of this neutrality that they wanted this clear seed banks kind of set up in their own places.
I mean, even now, some of our partner farmers, there is so much of cooperation that happens inside, especially if the village is a little remote, right? Where this one farmer, he actually has a lot of dairy. He has a lot of cows. His farm is not, I mean, it's 100 kilometers odd from Chennai, so not too far. But he has a bunch of, he has a lot of cows. So the barter that he has is basically his cow manure is awesome because he feeds his cows a lot of good minerals and stuff like that. So his farmyard manure is so much in demand that sometimes it gets auctioned off between other farmers. But what he has done is he has also done a barter deal with people who will provide him fodder. So people, other farmers who would basically who are growing rice, etc., who would then provide him fodder. And in the other season, he is going to provide them manure instead. So there's no exchange of money there. You kind of decide this is how much fodder you will give me and this is how much manure I'll give you. So it's actually amazing to think of how our villages were such self-sufficient units in everything. Okay, seeds. The seed bank exists. No need to go to the market and buy seeds. No need to go somewhere else and buy a fertilizer. Somebody has enough cows in the village. You grow enough rice to give him some stuff, and you get all of that cow manure. Or let his cows graze in your land, for example. So I think a lot of life was good, man. Those older days. But yeah, I think. But so in general, what can city people do beyond saving seeds? One is, of course, save the seeds that you are growing in your old balcony, right? Just put some thought into it. Even if you're successfully able to save just one variety of seeds, I think that will teach you also so much about the power of life. I mean, in fact, always whenever talking about seeds, I always remember that whole story from the Bible about the Noah's Ark and how all of these various species was saved by just
Mm.
making sure you put all of them into an ark, and then even
Yes.
though there was a flood, finally life came back all over again.
This is
So the
again
whole
with
seed saving.
the temple story as well. In the temple, if you see at the
Uh-huh.
top, they have this, they call it as kalasam in Tamil. So they have this copra kind of a thing of it
Mhm.
in the temple tomb, right? They have these kalasams in
Mhm.
which the seeds are stored. So all the important seeds of the village are stored in those kalasams. So whatever happens during rainfall, lightning, so this it doesn't get destroyed. So seed was seen as a treasure by farmers for over years and years.
And so, in terms of germination rates, is there a concern on, let's say, hybrid seeds versus native seeds and things like that, or not really? Germination rates and things like that?
There's been a huge thing about native seeds not getting germinated. That's because most of the people who are working on traditional varieties doesn't have a proper storage mechanism for seeds. So basically, the ideal way of storing seeds is you'll have to look at the temperature and humidity. The temperature has to be between 35 to 40 degree Fahrenheit, and humidity has to be less than 40%. So this is the standard, and this is especially for vegetables majorly. So for every variety, this varies, and every category of seed, this temperature requirement varies. So if you are maintaining a seed bank, at least in a sandbell where you are providing these seeds for others to grow and use and store for a longer time, then this maintenance of temperature, humidity, all of this is a must. Yeah.
This makes sense because I think this is one of the objections sometimes we hear from farmers. Sir, we bought native seeds last time, didn't germinate at all. I think this makes sense that because of the supply chain there or the people who are taking care of it.
Yeah, legally, government norm is like 75% germination should be there for all the seeds. So the government norm is like 75%
I see.
germination there for your seed packets.
Got it. Got it. And some other questions. How long has Hooga been around, and what does Hooga mean? I mean, what does Hooga stand for? It's a very funny sounding name.
Yeah, this has been a question for a lot of people. What does Hooga mean? Hooga is it's actually a Danish word, Haig. There's a book about this. It's why it's HYGGE, which means celebrating every day, community well-being, doing everything together, oneness. The meaning of this word is, and it is also one of the top most 20 beautiful words in the world. But it's Danish and it's European, but I'm working in an Indian context and we're talking more about native seeds and traditional seeds. So I've abbreviated it as helping of oppressed generation of agriculturists. So Hooga means helping of oppressed generation of agriculture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you kind of created an acronym out of the word which had a real meaning as well. And how long has Hooga been around?
Professionally, properly registered, it's 2021. But my journey for seeds, it's been like 8 years now.
So you started this kind of during the pandemic and stuff?
Yeah, around that.
The officially registered version.
Yeah.
And are there a lot of organizations like Hooga in different parts of India who are kind of following this sort of model, or there are not too many?
Specifically, there are not too many, and not specifically our kind of a business model that I see. So ours is a very unique and creative way of working with the farmers and actually driving and pushing us forward compared to other.
Still, so it's a good combination of it's a for profit, but there is a social ROI angle to it and a community building angle to it, which is I think the very unique combination, right? Either there are companies which are completely for profit, or there are things which are entities which are completely trying to do on a not for profit basis, right? I think this combination of for profit with a social ROI and community building angle is very unique. Can you share any success stories of any farmer partners who associated with Hooga?
Yeah, I can tell you about the turmeric growing farmer for us. It's the native Samba turmeric variety, which we have identified, and he has been growing for 10 long years. Actually, we do not. I actually did not associate with him on purpose. It was that we met in a festival, local village festival, and it happened to be the first seed festival of Hooga. And that's where this farmer, he did not even move away from the stall. He was just standing there watching the whole thing that was happening in the seed festival. He was just standing behind our banner and he was just mocking the whole thing that was happening. And I asked him, like, do you want to discuss or talk something? No, he said, no, nothing. And this was there for the whole day. And I was like, so great. I asked him at the end of the day, like, I've been seeing you standing for a long time. Are you looking for someone else or do you want to discuss something at all? And then he said, like, do you really see that these are all like profit oriented? Because people find me as a fool to have been doing organic farming for a long time. I grow this Samba Desi erode variety turmeric, and I don't see all of this going anywhere because we are the ones who are believing in all this. And you're a young person, young girl. Why are you struggling so much? Why can't you go sit in a high paying job and all that? Had a very long conversation like this. He was just venting out everything that he wanted to talk. And I told him, like, how long have you been doing this turmeric for? He said, like, 10 years. And what is the price that you get? He said, maximum good price, maximum support price that the government says is like 30 rupees. But even that doesn't go. It gets sold for 18, 20 rupees per kg. And I said, like, yeah, okay, fine. Like, I say it's not valuable at all. Only my mind was like, funding and was growing so much that he was getting such a low price for his good produce. So I want to do something really about it. So I told him, like, this time let's do like half acre batch. I'll try what I can do. Let's try together because I also wanted his support. So I told him, let's do this together. So it's going to be a win-win benefit. So I told him, like, whatever practice you're doing, document it. And also, I'll help you with the organic certification. I connected him with the organic certification department. So he also applied for it. He got the certification number and everything. And we documented and started marketing the whole batch. And it was a huge hit. We were able to sell the whole produce. And he got like almost 150 rupees for per kg for his produce. So he couldn't believe that this was happening.
Got it. And this you sold as turmeric seeds to mostly to retail consumers.
Yeah, retail consumers. Nice. And we sell it for
who are using it to grow stuff.
Yeah. Our price is for like 200 to 250 rupees, including the packaging, shipping, our labor cost, opportunity cost, we going and selling, shipping it, all of it included. So then, so this farmer, he wanted to grow extra for us. And then, like, other farmers, nearby neighborhood farmers started seeing that he's getting a better price, and they wanted to ask us if they could also get associated with Hooga and be a part of the collective work. So that's how the success story is actually spread, and that's how we need not go to the farmers to sensitize them. Rather, farmers started calling and asking, and sometimes they started growing and saving seeds by themselves, and they just bring the dried gourds and everything to us and ask, like, can you buy this from me? And I asked them, like, how did they actually grow it? Tell me the procedure of how did you grow it? To have a cross-pollination mix. I wanted to visit the field. Then we developed the rapport and then the whole procedure started. So I give individual attention to every farmer, and that's how our team was also set.
Right. And I think this is something which is very unique about farming, that farming is a very social profession, right? So anytime something actually works with one farmer, it spreads like wildfire in the entire village. It spreads really, really fast. Like a lot of startups sometimes ask, okay, how do we go to market with farmers? How do we acquire a lot of farmers? So I always tell them, just make sure that it works for one farmer. If it works for one farmer, then you will quickly get 50 other farmers who want to do it with you as well, right? So I think, and now the other thing is, how do you deal with situations where, let's say, a farmer, he has an heirloom variety which has been saved in his family for generations, right? He's obviously very proud of it. It's not available anywhere. And now you start kind of, you let him grow it and he's kind of marketing it. But you obviously also encourage people to go ahead and multiply and propagate those seeds, right? You don't want to follow the seed company approach of, okay, this is this guy's seed. This guy owns so there would not be any concept of a royalty or anything, right? For that originating farmer who kind of first contributed that seed, right?
But we have this Farmers Variety Registration Act, through which you can register a
Okay.
specific variety in the farmer's name itself. It's called the PPFRA Act
Okay.
of India.
Okay.
So, which actually helps
Interesting.
you
Interesting.
register the farmer's name itself.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Cool. Okay. I think we are just maybe one or two questions away, and then I'll
Yeah,
let
sure.
you go. But I mean, in general, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you have faced in this journey so far? One
The
is
seeds,
one we talked about. One of the challenges is in terms of scaling was
right.
consumer education, right?
Yeah.
That part itself. But in your very personal Hooga journey, what was the biggest challenge that you faced in this journey at a very personal level, I would say?
Being a woman and then doing all of this, it's a big struggle. Because there are a lot of other things that comes to your plate, and now being in your own village and standing up for yourself, they see it very differently. And the second thing is the challenge with seed certification and getting your seeds as a certified seed in itself is very challenging when it comes to new varieties that you have. So when you come up with a new variety, if it's not a notified variety, then it becomes a huge task for you to do this. And the third thing is crop loss.
Right, right.
In case of any crop loss, this last summer it has been a huge dry spell, and if your crop, the climate change impact is so huge. So that way, if your crop loss happens, then you will. We don't incur a loss for our farmers, so we bear the losses and we support them during those times. That's it.
Got it. So this is not related to seed saving per se, but one of the things that when we go to different villages and we talk to people, one of the things that we often hear is that there is just so much of loss of biodiversity in general, right, all across, where
Right.
I mean a lot of this biodiversity loss is in terms of medicinal plants, either in terms of medicinal plants or in terms of edible weeds, right? Things where grandmom would just step out and get something and say, okay, you have this problem, give me some time. She'll step out, get something jadi booty, and maybe you'll eat it, or maybe she'll apply it, or things like that. So a lot of that has kind of really been getting lost at a very scary rate, right? And is that something that is there in Hooga's roadmap, or because that's the other angle? One is the seed saving angle, another is all of these various different varieties of plants, not necessarily propagated by seed.
Right. Yeah, we do have all those, but the problem is we cannot sell all those right now, because the problem is most of those kind of green. So we have identified green leafy vegetables which are only rainfed. Only when the rainwater, when the rainwater drops on the plant will actually multiply. So there are seeds like that which can grow only when it gets soaked by the rainwater. Even if you put it in normal water, save the seeds and try to multiply, they won't. So we have documented all of
So I'll
those.
give you some examples, especially. Okay, got it. So, like, I'll give you some examples of many of these things where, at least because we are based out of Bangalore, and Bangalore has a lot of people from all parts of the country, right? So we see people kind of getting interested in exploring some of these. Like, it's a very experimental city. Like, people here like also experimenting and things like that. So, for example, so there is a lot of interest in many of these forgotten greens, for example, right? A lot of people interested in adding purslane to their diet. Now, purslane grows as a weed in general in various farms. If there is an excess phosphorus content in that soil, purslane will come up just like that. But like, okay, so because many farmers ask us this, that, hey, okay, you are telling that grow this weed. I mean, where can we get seeds for this weed? And we are kind of usually very stumped. Yeah, it comes like that. Get some cutting and try to put it and see. We are usually very stumped. Like, we tell them, grow this, and then they're like, okay, where do we find the seeds for this or cuttings for this? And we get stumped. So I think that's a very interesting dimension also. Many of these forgotten greens, if you can kind of start, I'm happy to know that you have purslane seeds, but also things like, for example, amrutaballi, right?
Yeah, we have many other wheat varieties as well, and but the germination aspect of these seeds are to be studied at a very deeper level. I'll tell you one example of this. Say, for example, castor, right? Castor seeds. Castor seeds, for every 50 kilometer they travel, their germination goes by 1%. Do you believe this?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Seeds are more like human beings.
And it seems like such a hardy plant, right? It seems like such a hardy plant. It will go anywhere. Even beside a sewage tank also, it will start growing on its own,
Yeah,
right?
very
These
true.
castor plants and all that.
Very true. So when we talk about seeds
Interesting.
and the forgotten
Interesting.
plants and weeds, there are a lot of aspects and especially if you're selling it, if you're giving free, of course, no one is going to question you about the germination and everything. But when you're running it as a sustainable enterprise, you become answerable for so many questions that people ask you. So it is a very critical aspect of adding it to the catalog. So we have added some varieties to the catalog, which we feel it needs to be studied deeper to put into selling.
Understood. But which means I think in a country like India, what is required is a Hooga in every agroclimatic zone, many Hoogas, essentially. That's probably what is required, right?
Yeah,
Because
right.
for you guys sitting in TN in that particular area, you'll not be able to save and encourage all of the different local varieties, because they will not even grow if you send them from there to somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So by definition, this is something which, in order to be solved, you need, like, Hooga should multiply like a virus in various parts of India, right?
Yeah, that's true. And
Which is
that's where, of
which is
course, will
required.
play a huge role in terms of educating and sensitizing people to start this kind of an activity in their own pace. So our course that we're developing will have all these aspects in place, and they'll get it's like an ocean. So whatever has been our journey for these many number of years, we put into a plate. So that it's like a quick, fast learning thing that they could adopt.
And Hooga is a single founder company?
Yeah, it's a
You
private
start this
company.
all by yourself, or?
Yeah, it's me, the sole founder, like, who takes care of everything together. We have 2 directors. It's my mother along with me, and she's been the master of everything that I've been today. And in terms of planning for the harvest, seed saving, and all of that, managing all of that work, without her, this is not possible at all. And
Because this seems like something which required a lot of technical knowledge to be picked up over a period of time, right?
Yeah.
A lot of technical knowledge married with technical indigenous knowledge.
Yes,
right?
yes. That is because I've been brought up in a farm, so even before starting Hooga, if you ask me to say about 50 varieties of green leafy vegetables, I can just say it in a go. So my mom has been like a teacher for me, teaching about every green leaves that we thought. We used to take the buffaloes and go graze. I used to graze goats in the field. So it's not that so I do all the works in the field, like from churning milk from cows to everything. So my family has been that way, and I was brought up that way. So it was so natural and innate. So people see it as something big. So for me, it was this is something that we already know about. And so that made it like a cakewalk, I felt. This whole knowledge that already existed with us. We just have to improvise here and there a bit and bring it into an operational business that would help everyone around us.
And you live at the farm now on a day-to-day basis? You live at the farm?
Yeah. We live at a farm, and that's how it is.
And how far is it from Chennai?
From Chennai, it's like 8-hour overnight journey. You can always come. Yeah, there's been visitors. There's been visitors across different parts of India, and we have got student researchers from Myanmar, US, who have come stay at a farm. Yeah, who do research. We have also published a research paper right now called "Losing Touch with Mother Seed" in the International Journal of Political Ecology. So yeah, a lot of open source publications as well.
Awesome. Do you also have an internship program at the farm? I think this is something that many people would want to actually do an internship.
Right now we don't have. Right now we have not opened our space due to other farm operational work that needs care. We'll be doing it when and where necessary and needed.
Got it. Okay. So final question. I've saved the best for the last. Not really, but basically, if I were to start seed saving, right? Me or any other balcony gardener, what is the most easiest plant I should start with? That, okay, you have never saved seeds before. Start with this. You will be able to do the full cycle. You'll be able to produce seeds, chips. So what is that one plant you would suggest?
Easiest, I would say, is for terrace gardeners. It is okra.
Even the okra process, it seemed like I have to pay some attention, but yeah, I guess by nature it's kind of like that.
You can also try amaranthus.
Cool. Awesome. This was right. Actually, yeah, especially red amaranthus, etc. I've seen a lot of times farmers would just let one of them just grow in their fields, right? And it'll keep on growing
Right.
along, and then they just use those seeds. Right. Cool. Awesome. I think it was pretty cool. This was like a fascinating topic. And, like we don't talk enough about seeds, as you mentioned, right? And today also, we actually didn't cover, we assume that people kind of know why seed diversity is important and things like that. We didn't actually talk about that because otherwise the show would go on for like 3-4 hours, right?
Yeah.
But I think one of the really interesting takeaways from this is also one is from a farmer's perspective. It's important to evaluate whether you want to actually grow seeds, right? Number one. Number two is we busted some very common myths around native seeds as well, right? This whole, oh, it does not germinate. I've heard it a lot of times. Third is, I think it's very exciting to see that Hooga has a playbook for one of our very standard gripes, which is that, more and more people are interested in eating native variety of seed. Nobody is producing it at any scale, right? And then finally, I think what we also understood and realized is we need several Hoogas across the country in order to make a change. So thank you, Sowmya, for all of the stuff that you do. And also thank you for joining us and spending your time here. We look forward to the course that you are launching. And in fact, I'll probably give you a call and we'll discuss whether we can offer some version of the course in Farmizen Academy, which is something that we run, which is about education in the intersection of food, farming, and health, right?
Yeah.
So we have courses on home gardening, on farming, on growing mushrooms. There's a dairy farming course which is going to start there pretty soon. We're going to start a course on fermentation as well, right? Because the idea is to get people interested in all of these different kind of related topics.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you again, Soumya, for your time, and we'll be in touch. Okay.
Yeah,
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for your time as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the Farmizen show, where we uncovered the delicious interplay between food, farming, and wellness, shaping a brighter, healthier tomorrow. Better for farmers, better for the planet, better for you.